asking yourself whether you're wrong is a really good thing. If you really feel strong conviction that you're doing the right thing, then keep going.
What if you could learn the secrets of your own body from a single drop of blood? What if one small box could run hundreds of tests from cholesterol to cancer, all in a few minutes at your local pharmacy? This wasn't just a hypothetical, it was a promise. A promise from a founder hailed as the next Steve Jobs. It was a promise that pulled in nearly $1 billion from the world's most powerful people and shot the company toward a $9 billion valuation. We are successfully reinventing the lab industry, the most important thing humanity has ever built. But that promise was a lie. Elizabeth Holmes, once the icon of Silicon Valley, found guilty of fraud, a stunning fall from grace for the Theranos founder. Sentenced to more than 11 years in federal prison. This is the story of how a dream to change the world became a $1 billion deception and how it all came crashing down. This is the story of Theranos. Every great story needs a magnetic main character, and at the center of the Theranos saga was Elizabeth Holmes. From a young age, Holmes was defined by a singular, burning ambition. She was brilliant, driven, and by all accounts, totally convinced she was destined for greatness. In 2003, at just 19 years old, she made the now legendary Silicon Valley move. She dropped out of Stanford University's elite chemical engineering program. She had an idea she believed couldn't wait for a diploma. Her first patent was for a wearable patch to analyze blood and deliver medicine. That idea didn't last long, but its core concept did, making blood testing faster, cheaper, and radically more accessible. This was the birth of Theranos, a name blending therapy and diagnosis. The vision was as grand as it was simple. For decades, blood testing was a painful and slow ordeal. It meant a big needle, a large vial of blood from the arm, a centralized lab, and waiting days, sometimes weeks, for the results. Holmes promised to blow up that entire model. Her pitch was hypnotic. She described a small, sleek box she called the Edison. This machine, she claimed, could run up to 200 different blood tests from one tiny drop of blood from a fingertip. No more big needles, no more long waits, just instant, actionable health information right in the patient's hands. The potential was staggering. It meant empowering people to take control of their own health, catch diseases like cancer and diabetes sooner, and save countless lives. It was, as she put it, the democratization of healthcare. To sell this vision, Holmes crafted a powerful and deliberate image. She adopted a uniform of a black turtleneck and black pants, a clear nod to her idol, Apple co-founder Steve Jobs. She spoke in a surprisingly deep baritone voice and maintained intense, unblinking eye contact. She wasn't just a CEO, she was a revolutionary, a once-in-a-generation visionary. And for a very long time, the world, especially the world with deep pockets, believed her. The 2010s were a gold rush for tech startups. Investors were drowning in cash and terrified of missing the next Google or Facebook. They were hunting for unicorns, private companies valued at over $1 billion. Elizabeth Holmes didn't just offer them a unicorn, she offered them a messiah in a black turtleneck. Her story was irresistible. A young, brilliant female Stanford dropout set to revolutionize a multi-billion-dollar industry. It was a narrative tailor-made for magazine covers, and it worked. The money poured in. But these weren't just any investors. Holmes avoided the typical tech venture capitalists who might ask tough questions about the science. Instead, she targeted older, powerful men, captivated by her charisma and the sheer force of her personality. The list of backers was stunning. It included media mogul Rupert Murdoch, Oracle founder Larry Ellison, and the Walton family of Walmart fame. Her board of directors was even more impressive, a who's who of the American establishment. It featured 2 former Secretaries of State, Henry Kissinger and George Shultz, and a former Secretary of Defense, William Perry. These weren't tech experts, they were titans of industry and government. Their names gave Theranos an almost bulletproof shield of credibility. If these men believed in her, who was anyone else to question it? By 2014, Theranos was the darling of Silicon Valley. The company had raised nearly $1 billion, and its valuation skyrocketed to an incredible $9 billion. On paper, this made Elizabeth Holmes the world's youngest self-made female billionaire, with a personal net worth estimated at $5 billion. She graced the covers of Forbes, Fortune, and Inc., celebrated as a business prodigy. The peak of this meteoric rise was a landmark partnership with Walgreens, one of America's largest pharmacy chains. The plan was to install Theranos wellness centers in thousands of stores, bringing her revolutionary tech directly to the public. A similar deal was in the works with the supermarket giant Safeway. This wasn't just a startup anymore. It was on the verge of becoming a household name. The hype was immense. The valuation was astronomical. The founder was a global icon. From the outside, Theranos looked invincible, but inside the company's Palo Alto headquarters, a very different story was unfolding. The promise that had built this empire was resting on a foundation of sand. Behind the glowing magazine profiles and carefully staged media appearances, the reality at Theranos was a chaotic mess of pressure, paranoia, and outright deception. The core problem was a simple but catastrophic one. The technology didn't work. The Edison machines, those little black boxes that were supposed to be the future of medicine, were wildly unreliable. They constantly failed quality control checks, gave erratic results, and could only run a tiny fraction of the tests Holmes claimed they could. Former employees would later describe a frantic environment where experiments were manipulated to produce the right results. When the machines failed, which was often, the company resorted to a shocking bait and switch. Patients would go to a Walgreens for a Theranos test, get a small finger prick, and leave thinking they'd just experienced the future. But behind the scenes, Theranos was secretly running those tests on standard, off-the-shelf analyzers made by companies like Siemens, the very machines Theranos claimed it would make obsolete. For the few tests they did run on the Edison, they often diluted the tiny finger prick samples, a scientifically bogus practice that corrupted the already questionable results. This deception was guarded by a corporate culture of extreme secrecy. Departments were siloed, forbidden from talking to one another. Every new hire and visitor had to sign ironclad non-disclosure agreements, NDAs. Holmes and her secretive second-in-command and romantic partner, Ramesh Sunny Balwani, ruled with an iron fist, crushing dissent and firing anyone who dared to voice concern. But even in this climate of fear, some found the courage to speak up. One of the first was a young engineer named Tyler Schultz. He had a unique problem. His grandfather was George Schultz, the former Secretary of State and a key member of the Theranos board. Working in the lab, Tyler saw the deception firsthand, the failed quality checks and the manipulated data. He tried to raise the alarm, writing a detailed email to Holmes about the scientific and ethical breaches he was witnessing. She responded by having Balwani belittle his concerns. When Tyler went to his own grandfather, George Schultz sided with Holmes, completely charmed by her. Horrified, Tyler resigned, but his ordeal was just beginning. Theranos unleashed its army of high-powered lawyers on him, trying to intimidate him into silence. Another whistleblower, lab worker Erica Chung, faced similar pressure. They were young, just starting their careers and up against a $9 billion corporation. But they had seen the potential for real human harm. Patients were getting faulty test results for things like cancer, diabetes, and HIV. This was no longer just about money, it was about people's lives. They knew they couldn't stay silent. The person who would finally bring the truth to light was an investigative journalist at the Wall Street Journal named John Carreyrou. In early 2015, Carreyrou got a tip from a medical expert who was deeply skeptical of Theranos' claims. The company had famously never published any peer-reviewed data to support its revolutionary promises, a huge red flag in the scientific community. Intrigued, Kariru started digging. His investigation led him into the company's culture of fear. Many ex-employees were terrified to talk, bound by NDAs and fearing legal retaliation. But Kariru persisted. He eventually connected with Erica Chung and, through an intermediary, Tyler Schultz. Their stories, combined with others, painted a damning picture of a massive, years-long fraud. They gave him the inside details he needed: fake demos, doctored reports, and a technology that was a complete sham. As Kariru got closer to the truth, Theranos launched an all-out war to kill the story. Holmes and Balwani hired David Boyce, one of the most feared litigators in the country. Boyce's firm unleashed a campaign of threats and intimidation against Kariru's sources. Holmes even went directly to the journal's headquarters in a last-ditch effort to personally convince the editors to kill the story, using her carefully honed charisma to deny everything. But it was too late. The evidence was too strong. On October 15, 2015, the Wall Street Journal published Kariru's first bombshell report. The headline was devastating: "A prized startup's struggles." The article laid the deception bare, revealing that Theranos was barely using its own technology and was instead relying on conventional machines for most of its tests. The public facade cracked. Holmes went on the offensive, appearing on CNBC the very same day the article was published. Looking straight into the camera, she delivered a now infamous line: "This is what happens when you work to change things. First they think you're crazy, then they fight you, and then all of a sudden you change the world." It was a defiant performance, but the lie was unraveling. Kariru's article had opened the floodgates.
When you work to change things, and first they think you're crazy, then they fight you, and then all of a sudden you change the world.
John Kariru's article was the spark that ignited a firestorm. With the allegations public, regulators who had been slow to act finally sprang into action. The FDA launched an investigation, finding major inaccuracies and declaring the company's signature tiny blood vial, the nanotainer, an unapproved medical device. Then came the hammer. The Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services, CMS, conducted a surprise inspection of the Theranos lab. Their findings were horrifying. The lab was found to pose immediate jeopardy to patient health and safety. Regulators documented widespread failures, from unqualified staff to malfunctioning equipment. The fallout was swift and brutal. Walgreens sued Theranos and shut down all 40 of its wellness centers. The Safeway deal, which had been stalled for years, was officially dead. In 2016, CMS banned Elizabeth Holmes from owning or operating a medical lab for 2 years. Sunny Balwani received the same ban. The company, desperate to stay afloat, voided 2 years of results from its Edison devices, a stunning admission that the technology was a failure. It shut down its clinical labs, claiming it would pivot to selling the Edison machine itself, a device everyone now knew didn't work. The financial toll was catastrophic. Forbes, the same magazine that had crowned Holmes a billionaire, revised its estimate of her net worth from $4.5 billion all the way to zero. The company's $9 billion valuation had evaporated, but this wasn't the end of the story. In March 2018, the SEC charged Holmes and Balwani with massive fraud, accusing them of raising over $700 million from investors through years of lies. Holmes settled, paying a $500,000 fine and agreeing to a 10-year ban from serving as an officer of a public company. Just months later, the Department of Justice brought the criminal charges. A federal grand jury indicted both Holmes and Balwani on 11 federal counts of wire fraud and conspiracy. The game was over. In September 2018, what was left of the company sent a final email to shareholders announcing that Theranos was officially dissolving. The billion-dollar lie had finally killed it. The final act of the Theranos saga played out in a federal courthouse. Elizabeth Holmes's criminal trial began in late 2021. The prosecution laid out a meticulous case, detailing the faked demos, the falsified reports with forged pharmaceutical company logos, and the endless lies told to investors. The defense tried to paint Holmes as a well-intentioned entrepreneur who was misled and controlled by the older, aggressive Sunny Balwani. In January 2022, the jury delivered its verdict. Elizabeth Holmes was found guilty on 4 counts of defrauding investors. She was acquitted on charges related to defrauding patients. Later that year, she was sentenced to 11 and a quarter years in federal prison. Sunny Balwani was tried separately and convicted on all 12 felony fraud counts he faced. He received a sentence of nearly 13 years. In May 2023, the images broadcast around the world were a stark contrast to the magazine covers of her glory days. Elizabeth Holmes, the former titan of tech, reported to a minimum security federal prison in Texas to begin her sentence. Both she and Balwani were ordered to pay $452 million in restitution to their victims. So what's left in the rubble of a $9 billion company? The legacy of Theranos is a monumental warning to Silicon Valley and its fake it till you make it culture. The scandal forced investors and the media to be more critical of founders with big promises but little proof. It also triggered calls for stronger regulation of lab-developed tests, the loophole that let Theranos operate without meaningful oversight for so long.
He suggested going to Theranos because they were close by, less expensive. I'm like, that's fine, I'll go to Theranos, that's not a big deal. So that's what I did. I went to the one closest to where we lived at the time. When I went online and got the results, I printed them off. It looks like they're normal. They're saying normal. So almost any Joe Schmo off the street would think, oh, okay, I'm good, and toss them aside. And then I thought, I better go back and look at that again. Okay, what's the range, the reference range? And I noticed that it's for premenopausal women. Okay, well, that's not me.
My physician said there's a group called Theranos at Walgreens, run by and get your finger pricked. A normal reading for PSA tests is you want to keep it under 4. The results were 26.1. To suddenly be confronted with something that was about 1,300% off normal, that was not the happiest news when I first heard it the first time. 4 days later, at the urging of my physician, I was retested, and lo and behold, the results were in a very normal range. It's number 3, which was again up in the 20s. Something's not right.
But perhaps the most important legacy is the human one. The story of Theranos isn't just about lost billions. It's about the very real patients who received faulty medical information. It's also the story of whistleblowers like Tyler Schultz and Erica Chung, who risked their careers to expose the truth and protect the public. Their courage is a powerful reminder of the importance of integrity in the face of overwhelming pressure. The Theranos saga is a modern-day fable about the seductive power of a good story, the dangers of unchecked ambition, and the catastrophic difference between a vision and a lie. The downfall of Theranos is one of the most dramatic corporate collapses in modern history. If you found this story fascinating, make sure to subscribe for more deep dives into ambition, deception, and justice. We also want to hear from you. What other corporate scandals should we investigate next? Let us know in the comments. The line between a visionary and a fraud can be razor thin. Elizabeth Holmes didn't just cross that line, she obliterated it, leaving behind a legacy of ruin and a cautionary tale that will be told for generations.